discuss today. So overall, you might have noticed that in general, we have two passages. One is 10 question set and the other one is 6 question set. And the most important feature of MHCET question pattern, the RC question set, is that the questions are going to be pretty direct. You don't have to waste time. Hi Shiva, how are you? I hope you all are doing great. Okay, so the question pattern, as I was telling you, seedhe passages honge, right? One reading will be enough for you to understand the gist of it, the meaning of it, and the English and the language structure is not going to be as tough as we otherwise find in CAT and ZAT. Even the language is going to be quite easy and understandable, because most of the passages may be taken from newspapers, newspaper editorials and all. But the glitch over here, the small glitch is that the passages are going to be long, right? The passages are going to be long, disturbingly long, annoyingly long. And the last couple of questions will be based on vocabulary. There will be a few questions where your vocab will be tested based on the understanding of the passage. All right? Okay. So what is the mantra from my side? Whenever you come across the passage, read the passage quickly. Just in one glance, try to have the essence of it. Okay. Now, your level of speed will largely depend on how much you are comprehending from the passage. If the comprehension is easy enough, so you can speed through the passage, you can skittle through the passage. But if you think that the language is quite, of a different level, or the topic discussed in the RC passage is a bit different from what we otherwise witness, in our daily reading, then probably that may have an impact on your reading. Rohit, hi Rohit, how are you? All right. Try to retain information, which is very, very important. Whenever you are reading a passage, it is important that you retain information so that you don't have to go back to the passage when you are solving the questions, right? More often than not, we have observed, even you might have observed, that we actually forget what was there in the first paragraph and the second paragraph the moment we reach the last paragraph. Okay, try to retain as much information as possible. But with that being said, that does not mean that we cannot go back to the passage, right? If the need be, if the situation warrants, then probably we may have to go back to the passage to have a proper understanding of the information, extraction of the information. If at all we have to go back to the passage, and if at all a second reading becomes a must, then why not? But we have to keep one thing in mind, that time is of essence and we can't afford to lose time. And lastly, please carefully analyze the answer options before you key in the right answer. All right. So this is what I wanted to tell you. Now let us see if we can apply the same thing on the passages that we are going to discuss. And let us promise ourselves today that we are going to be really quick with our reading so that we can, try to answer the questions as quickly as possible. All right. So let's start the reading. So this is the first passage in front of you. I will give you 30 seconds to read through this particular slide and then I will take you to the next slide. Okay, your time starts now. Okay, so let me now take you to the next slide. The 30 seconds are over and here is your second slide. All right, let me take you to the next slide. Kumar Pritham asks, what is nuisance? Nuisance means when you make a mockery of anything. When you spoil something, you make a nuisance of it, spoiling completely. That is nuisance. I hope that answers the question. All right, I believe you have read the paragraph, right? So if you want to rate it between easy, moderate, and difficult, right? How would you rate the passage? I think the passage was relatively easier to understand. Okay, so let us go back to the passage. Let us read the passage once again together, and then I will take you to the questions. All right? Okay. So how do we start the passage? The passage starts talking about cryptocurrencies. Right? पहली लाइन में तुम्हारे सामने cryptocurrencies मौजूद है. Much has been said about the mining of cryptocurrencies. So you get the caption. We are talking about the mining of the cryptocurrencies and how the process guzzles electricity. To consume electricity, guzzles electricity. Mining is a process that creates new digital coins by solving complex mathematical problems using very powerful computers, day and night non-stop. That wouldn't be a problem if it were only a few computers in use. So the first couple of lines talks about the mining of cryptocurrencies and how you produce cryptocurrencies and what it takes to produce cryptocurrencies, isn't it? As at February 19, for example, Bitcoin mining was thought to consume more than 51,000 gigawatts hours of electricity each year worldwide. So it talks about the consumption of electricity when it comes to Bitcoin mining. Okay, according to Digiconomist, an online cryptocurrency hub, that's 5.5 times much the power used by Zimbabwe, a developing nation, for the whole of 2015. There is no known corporate mining rig in Zimbabwe, though some individuals have decided to dip their toes into the mining waters. All right. 41,000 people trading crypto on local exchange are to some degree mining on their personal computers. Obviously, these aren't the all Zimbabweans, but there is also no administrative source on power use involving crypto mining. We don't have any administrative source that can tell us about crypto mining. Okay, these are all speculations. Digiconomist has produced a model for calculating electricity. All right, it's all about electricity consumption and production used from Bitcoin mining that was widely used across the world, which could help estimate the amount of energy used by citizens mining crypto in Zimbabwe. The formula, which depends on the performance of ordinary mining equipment, expresses the miner's operating costs as a percentage of the total mining revenues before converting the operating cost into energy consumed. A small mathematical formula in order to understand the Bitcoin production over here in front of you. The conversion is based on the average cost of electricity. Manufacturers of cryptocurrency are introducing to the market more efficient mining technologies that minimize electricity use. So don't you think we are talking about the impact that Bitcoin production or the cryptocurrency production is having on the production of electricity? And it is being adversely affected. And this is what has been brought out by the passage, isn't it? Look at the next paragraph. Bitcoin is evolving into a big environmental nuisance. All right. Its mining reliant on coal-fired power stations in countries like China, a leading cryptocurrency market, emits the equivalent of 24.8 million tons of carbon dioxide each year. According to the UN expert panel on climate change, carbon dioxide is the #1 driver of global warming and climate change phenomena that has spewed frequent and intense droughts and floods in Zimbabwe in recent decades, with deadly effect. This is the effect that we are having when you are using coal to produce electricity. Look at the impact. And then we say there is only about 16 million Bitcoin in circulation today. A maximum 21 million Bitcoins can only ever be used. Now, as long as there is any cryptocurrency to mine, it seems plausible that global concern will not only focus on the legitimacy of a currency that exists only online, but also its power guzzling systems, which will deficit in the future. It will go down in future. Zimbabwe could easily turn into a crypto miner's paradise if only power supply was reliable. Okay? We are talking about hypothesis. This is not happening at the moment, right? At 986 C per kWh, the country has some of the cheapest electricity rates anywhere in the world. The average rate cost across southern Africa is 50% higher compared to the local rate. Okay, since the consumption is, the production is cheap, so they are using electricity, but the source they are using to produce electricity is poisonous and it is hazardous, right? This is what the sum and substance of the passage is, isn't it? Now, if you look at the question, which of the following is a suitable title for the passage? A. Cryptocurrency, threat in disguise, Zimbabwe's suppressed digital progress, the worldwide digital conflict, the dark digital era of e-commerce. All the given options can be a suitable title. What do you think should be the answer? Krishna is the first one to key in her answer. Krishna says A. Aman says A. All right. Thank you for your suggestions, Krishna and Aman. What about the others? क्या लगता है आपको क्या होना चाहिए? What should be the answer option? You have to choose the suitable title for the passage. Jagdish Mali has also keyed in A. And guess what, guys? A is the right answer choice. We are actually talking about the threat in disguise. The entire passage has talked about the same thing. What is at stake when you talk about the production of cryptocurrency? B talks about Zimbabwe's suppressed digital progress. This is not mentioned in the passage, so this cannot be the option. The worldwide digital conflict is not what we are discussing over here. The dark digital era of e-commerce, we have not discussed e-commerce at all, so this cannot be the option, right? So E, D, C, B are all out and we are going to stick to A, and that is your answer option. Okay, absolutely right, guys. So great going. First question you have answered all right. Let's move to the next question. Which of the following is or are the impact or impacts of cryptocurrency mining in Zimbabwe as mentioned in the passage? A. Promotes digital fraud and reduces financial security. B. Has caused natural disaster due to the emission of harmful gas. C. Overutilization of energy will cause its shortage in the long run. So out of these 5 options, we have to choose one. Krishna says option D, both B and C. Right, Krishna? Okay. About the others? Now, if you look at this question, so let's talk about the options over here. Devildom Gaming says D, all right. C, all right. Let us look at A. Now, we have read the entire passage, right? Have we found out anything that talks about digital fraud in the passage? There's a question mark. Do we talk about digital fraud? B says, has caused natural disaster due to the emission of harmful gases. If we go back to the passage and we can find it out over here, according to the UN expert panel on climate change, carbon dioxide is #1 driver of global warming. And look at this point. It emits the equivalent of 24.8 million tons of carbon dioxide each year. So B stands. And if you look at C, overutilization of energy will cause its shortage in the long run. We have found it out over here. It seems plausible that global concern will not only focus on the legitimacy of a currency that exists only online, but also its power guzzling systems which will deficit in the future. Which means we can definitely talk about the shortest thing, B and C. So A we have not spoken about. B and C is definitely present in the passage. So we are going to stick to D, only B and C. Alright. So these 2 points are present in the passage. Hence D should have been the answer option. Okay. So all those who have answered D, congratulations. That is the answer. Okay. It is important, guys, to find out where to look for the answers. Okay. Please structure your reading. It is very, very important. Okay. We can read. General reading is important, but it is also important how to structure your reading and try to, extract the exact information from the passage. And that is why reading all the options becomes all the more important. Okay, that was question 2 for us. Let us look at question number 3. What does the author want to imply by the line, there is also no administrative source on power use involving crypto mining? First of all, read the options and then I will take you back to that part of the passage where this line is mentioned. It is a high scoring game, so you have to be absolutely, on your best performance day. What does the author want to imply by the line, there is also no administrative source on power use involving crypto mining? A. Leaders worldwide should administer control over technology to achieve better growth. B says the electricity supply utilizes in Zimbabwe do not have good administrative control. C says none of those given as options. D says the data regarding energy consumed by individual crypto mining is not reliable. And E says freedom obtained due to lack of political control has facilitated the growth of bitcoins. Devilton Gaming has keyed in D. Jagdish D. Krishna has also marked D. If we can go back to the very first slide, guys. If you can start reading from here, that's 5.5 times as much the power used by Zimbabwe, a developing nation, for the whole of 2015. There is no known corporate mining rig in Zimbabwe, though some individuals have decided to dip their toes into the mining waters. 41,000 people trading crypto on local exchange are to some degree mining on their own personal computers. Obviously, these aren't all the Zimbabweans, but there is no administrative source on power use involving crypto mining. So this line takes us to option D. The data regarding energy consumed by individual crypto mining is not reliable, right? So that was present in the very first slide. So D is the right option. We have not spoken about what the leaders worldwide should do. B talks about the electricity supply utilizers in Zimbabwe do not have good administrative control. We have not spoken about that as well, right? Hence, C is out of question. E talks about an entirely new thing, freedom obtained due to lack of political control. This is something new. It does not fall under the ambit and scope of the question asked. Hence, D should have been the right answer choice. Okay, all of you have marked D. Congratulations to you. Next challenge, ready for it? Question number 4. Which of the following can be the concluding sentence of the passage? Since you remember the passage all right, and we are going to check how much we retain. That is the major challenge that we are going to address today. Kitna retain kar pa rahe hain? And based on that, hum answer karenge. Which of the following can be the concluding sentence of the passage? Let's read the options and then we'll answer it. Krishna has just come up with her suggestion. She says none of these because they don't conclude the passage. Aman says B, all right. Fantastic application of thoughts. Okay, what about the others? Let's look at the options carefully. A says the hype surrounding digital currency is causing its downfall. The hype causing its downfall. Is it about the rise and fall of the digital currency? Right? B says none of those given as options. C says the certainty is that Zimbabwe can sustain cryptocurrency mining of any kind at any level. Is the passage all about the sustainability of cryptocurrency mining by Zimbabwe? D says we should start considering now alternatives to digital currency to advance in the industry. Is it about finding alternatives to digital currency? E says technical people are much required. The passage doesn't give you any idea or insight into this information that can lead you to this information. Technical people are much required in Zimbabwe so that they can come up with new ideas. This is pretty generic, has no bearing whatsoever on the passage, right? Hence, the answer should have been B, because the sum and substance of the passage is what are the ramifications, what are the impacts that we may face because of Bitcoin production. Okay, and the kind of electricity being used and how they're produced, and what is the impact of that on our ecosystem and nature. That was the passage all about. Hence, B should have been the right answer option. Okay, the answer is B. All right. So we have done the very first passage absolutely successfully. This was a smaller passage with just 4 questions. I just want to ask you, are we ready for a bigger show? Because in the next passage, we are going to, see different kinds of questions, and it will be a complete dose of 10 questions and we will answer them. Okay. So the idea is to be ready to push your limit and see how many questions we can answer in the next comprehension. So number one, check your retention, check your memory, how much we can remember, how much information we can extract from the passage and keep it safe out here, and how to use that information to answer the questions. All right. Jagdish says, why not A? A talks about the hype surrounding digital currency is causing its downfall, right? And you have to look at the concluding sentence of the paragraph. If you look at right, we are talking about, look at how the passage is moving towards a close. The average electricity cost across southern Africa is 50% higher compared to the local rate. We are talking about electricity over here. And how would you end it? And look at the question. And A talks about hype surrounding the digital currency. We have not focused on what the penultimate sentence all about. What was the penultimate sentence all about? All right. Jagdish, I think this is clear to you. Why not A? It talks about the hype. It runs counter to the feeling of the passage. Okay, that is why A cannot be the answer. Okay, all right. Can we move on to the next question very quickly? The next passage. Here we go. 15 seconds and then I'll take you to the next slide. If you're really enjoying this session, please don't forget to press the like button and press the bell icon. Click on the like button, please. Do like our session and share it with your friends. All right. Karthik, I've seen your suggestion. Let me finish this particular passage and then probably if we have time, we'll go back to the passage. If that is all right with you, Karthik. Moving on to the next slide, guys. I hope you have finished reading. Can I take you to the next slide? Here we go. All right, to the next slide. Can I take you to the next slide now? All right, let's go back to the main passage. Again, on a scale of easy, moderate and difficult, how would you rate this passage, guys? कैसे rate करेंगे? Easy था, moderate था, difficult था, how was it? All right, let us now look at the passage and let's go slowly, understanding every bit of it. Okay? Information retain करना है हमने. Okay? All right. With Finance Commission recommendation, center-state relations set to undergo dramatic change. There's a recommendation and we are going to look at a center-state relationship changing dramatically. Any big change requires big ideas, decisive leadership and happy coincidence of circumstances. These are the requirements to bring about any big change. बहुत बड़ा change लाएंगे तो ये सारी चीजें हमें जरूरत पड़ेंगी. Nothing illustrates this better than the unfolding story of cooperative federalism in India. Okay, the cooperation between the two set of governments, cooperative federalism, cooperation between the two set of governments, one at the center, one at the state. All right. As Chief Minister of Gujarat, Narendra Modi had often argued, what did he argue? That the central government implemented schemes were at odds with the state's needs. They were different from the state needs, right? What the center proposed probably was not needed at the state level. So that's why they were at odds with the state's needs and priorities. For example, and we get an example over here. schemes that provided funds for electrification were at best of limited value to Gujarat since it had already achieved near 100% electrification. So this funds for electricity was absolutely futile for the Gujarat set of model. This is just an example. Okay. This state could have spent the money provided for such a scheme more productively if allowed to use it for other purposes. That is why they are at odds with the central scheme. That is why the center schemes are at odds with the state scheme. Okay. In advancing this view, Modi was joined by other chief ministers such as Vasundhara Raje of Rajasthan. So Vasundhara Raje, who was then the chief minister of Rajasthan, echoed Chief Minister Modi's thought, who was then the chief minister of Gujarat, who argued that, what was the argument? The vast number of central schemes further restricted their fiscal space because of many of them required matching contributions by them from their otherwise untied funds. Alright, so if the center is contributing to a cause, the state was also expected to contribute. Alright, once these matching funds were committed to access central scheme, states were left with very limited funds for even the most important expenditure items such as enforcement of law and order. Nevertheless, this system remained entrenched in one form or another in the last several decades on account of coincidence of three factors. What were the three factors? First, outside of state leaders and a few economists and policy analysts, advocates of the view that true federalism means giving greater fiscal space to states and trusting them in setting their own priorities have been few and far between. So one thought, crept out, one thought, made headlines that it is important for the center to give adequate power to state. And that was the idea of true federalism, giving greater fiscal space, economic power, monetary power to the state to actually develop their own state so that they don't have to be at the mercy of the center. Alright, so this thought started doing the rounds. That was the first one. What was the second one? The Finance Commission, appointed once every 5 years, plays a key role in the division of tax revenues between center and states. Consistent with first point, successive finance commissions held untied funds to the states at or below 30% of the divisible tax pool. Only the 13th Finance Commission exceeded this mark, setting states' share at 32%. It was fixed at 30, but after the 13th Finance Commission, it was increased to 32% share. Finally, successive central governments have chosen to transfer the bulk of the remaining funds to the state via central and centrally sponsored schemes. With early 8% growth over an entire decade, tax revenues have significantly expanded. Alongside central and centrally sponsored schemes and the revenue resources they absorb have expanded dramatically as well. Two key factors that come together to dramatically alter this equilibrium. One, India now has a Prime Minister who was once a Chief Minister and strongly feels that cooperative federalism means greater fiscal and legislative space for states. Alright? And two, by a happy coincidence, the chairman and member of the 14th Finance Commission believe in genuine federalism themselves. Moreover, they have recognized the opportunity offered by a Prime Minister at the helm who truly believes that the power of states and their leaders. Accordingly, they have recommended that starting 2015-16, states be awarded 42% of the divisible pool tax revenue from 32% to 42%. So, does it empower the state? Yes or no? Does it empower the state as per the passage? This is a gigantic and unprecedented 10% jump in devolution. Predictably. And what is the prediction? The prediction is the Prime Minister and his cabinet have accepted this bold recommendation of the 14th Finance Commission, a jump from 32% to 42%. It has been accepted. All right, this is the gist. What implication does this change have? Now, this change, what are the implications of this change? Giving more power to the state. This is the sum and substance of this passage. For starters, with larger transfers coming as untied funds, states also have greater responsibility in discharging their duties. It is likely, it is possible that they will now have to take greater responsibility in areas that have been hitherto covered by the center. All this while, the areas that were covered by the center will now be looked after by the state, right? Especially those falling on the state list. States will also have to do this in ways that are more consistent with the priorities and not according to one-size-fits-all scheme. According to priorities. By the same token, with a lower share in the divisible pool, the center's fiscal space will shrink, requiring a rethink of central and centrally sponsored scheme. One might ask, where does Niti Aayog fit into this story? I am tempted to say this is the view of the author's view. Look at the language. I am tempted to say that in replacing the Planning Commission by Niti Aayog, Prime Minister Modi may have anticipated the 14th Finance Commission. So the anticipation of the 14th Finance Commission is what the author thinks, right? This is what the Niti Aayog has done. And why does it have to be like this? Under the previous regime, the center was often seen as a giver and states as recipients. Okay, center was the giver and state was the recipient. Now the equation will change, thereby making the latter means the state, feel that they were less than equal partners. That was the feeling. The states felt they were less equal to the center. In replacing the Planning Commission by Niti Aayog, the Prime Minister sought to change that equation and forge an equal relationship between the two sides. As such, this change represents a step towards cooperative federalism, when you actually make the center and the state stand on equal terms. And that is the takeaway of cooperative federalism, if that is understood. All right. We will have a more complete picture of the emerging center-state relations this Sunday when the finance minister presents the budget. But even with that, we now know one thing is clear. And what is that thing? In the years to come, Niti Aayog will have to play a much greater role in the knowledge space. Greater fiscal freedom combined with greater legislative freedom in areas covered by the concurrent list of the Constitution means that states will need to play a more active role in designing their own programs and policies. Right? So what are we talking about? Delegation of power. The state now will have more power. It will no longer be a puppet at the hands of the center. Okay? As they do so, they will need to reach out to data analysis and expert advice. The designs of Niti Aayog, as per the cabinet note of 1st January 2015, positions it well to provide these services. By the same token, those of us at Niti Aayog have to work hard in the months to come to build new strengths so that we do not disappoint the state that reach out to us for advice and assistance, we shall see. Now, we know who the author is right now, member of the Niti Aayog, and he is all praise for Niti Aayog. So if you look at this particular piece of passage, it is full of facts, figures, data, and it does a lot of comparative analysis. Are we on the same page? Right? And this is what the passage is all about. Now, if you look at the question, guys, if you look at the question, the first question, as the Chief Minister of Gujarat, Narendra Modi, why argued that the central government implemented schemes are at odds with the state government? Why are they at odds with the state government? A, because the central government was not paying the equal amount of funds for all the states. Was that the reason? B, because he, being from the opposition, want to criticize the steps taken by the central government and leave an impression on the general public mind that what a crook central government is. C, because central government doesn't take in the picture all the perspective while allocating the funds. Or D, because he wanted more funds for filling his and his cabinet minister's pocket. So, if you think the passage was on the tougher side, you look at the options. The options are going to be a throwaway for you, and you can definitely be able to bring home the right answer. What according to you should be the answer? Krishna says it's A, sir. All right. Now, I hope you remember the passage. Okay. So, for question number 5, if you have read the passage all right, then A says because the central government was not paying equal amount of funds for all the states. B says because he, being from the opposition, he wanted to criticize the steps taken by the central government. And C says because central government doesn't take in picture all the perspective while allocating funds. The answer is C, and look at this part. As Chief Minister of Gujarat, Narendra Modi had often argued that the central government implemented schemes were at odds with the needs. For example, now read this example. Schemes that provided funds for electrification were at best limited value to Gujarat since it had already achieved near 100% electrification. This state could have spent the money provided for such a scheme more productively if allowed to use it for other purposes. Now look at the line. Because central government doesn't take in the picture all the perspective. Okay. This is the perspective that we are talking about. And that is why the scheme was, at odds with the central government scheme. C should have been the right answer. Alright. It was not about the money. A says, because the central government was not paying equal amount of money, amount of funds for all the states, right? This is not the case, right? From here, you can drive home why C should be the answer. I hope the answer is clear to you. Is this understood? Right? A talks about paying money, equal money to all the states. That's what A talks about. Was not paying equal amount of money for all the states. It was the need of the state, not the money. The quantum of money is not in question. It is the need of the state. Alright? So C should have been the right answer for question number 5. All right. Let us look at the next question. Why Vasundhara Raje decided to join the views of Narendra Modi? Why did she decide to join the views of Narendra Modi? A says, being from the same party, she had no choice but to join hand in hand with her party leader. B says, Vasundhara Raje and Narendra Modi had a hidden plan of going against any of the good initiatives taken by the central government. C says, Vasundhara Raje was also facing the atrocities of central government and want to raise her voice with Narendra Modi. And D says, Vasundhara Raje, being a chief minister of a state of India, where central schemes are restricted, the fiscal space of the state government feels that it is injustice on the part of the central government. Dave, what do you want me to explain? This question number 6 that we are discussing at the moment, or the previous question? Ninad has answered it should be D, sir. Okay. D. All right. Krishna says D. All right. Okay. So what is the answer? D is the answer, and you all have guessed it right. Vasundhara Raje, being a chief minister of the state, feels that it is injustice on the part of the central government. Now read this part. This is an excerpt from the passage. In advancing this view, Modi was joined by other chief ministers such as Vasundhara Raje of Rajasthan, who argued, what was the argument? That the vast number of central schemes further restricted their fiscal space because many of them required matching contributions by them for their otherwise untied funds. Okay, so this was looked upon as injustice on the part of the central government by Vasundhara Raje. So this supports option D. Okay, and that is why D should have been the answer. Dave, you wanted me to take you back to the previous one. Okay, let me come back to it. Right? This was question number 6 for you. I hope you people have followed, and most of you have got this one right. Okay, let us now go back to the 5th question. What was the question? As the Chief Minister of Gujarat, Narendra Modi, argued that central government implemented schemes are at odds with the state government. It's all about the priority. It was all about the priority, right? The state had different requirement, but the central was giving money, irrespective of the requirement of the state, right? That is why when the electrification scheme came to Gujarat, the government said we don't need this money because we are already a state where 100% electrification has been achieved. So there was a clear-cut mismatch of the priorities, right? And that is why C should have been the answer, because central government doesn't take in the picture all the perspective while allocating funds. Okay? The perspective of the central government to give money for electrification to Gujarat was different. It would have given money to all the other states for electrification, and they followed the same scheme with Gujarat, but Gujarat did not need money for electrification. That is why, what was the question? The question was, the schemes are at odds for the central government. They are not, coinciding with each other. That was the question. If that answers your question, dear. Okay. Now let's go to this question number 7. Next question. The writer referred the PM's view of cooperative federalism. What do you understand by cooperative federalism? A. It means a more prominent role for the center than states. B. It means the competitiveness between the center and state. C. It means more competitiveness among states. D. It means a sync in relation among the states and the center. You have to clearly figure out the meaning of cooperative federalism. A says it means a more prominent role for the center. It means the competitiveness between the center and the state. Competitiveness. It means more competitiveness among states. It means a sync in relation among states and the center. Right? Karthik has answered D. Krishna says D. All right. About the others? The answer option is D. It means a sync in relationship. Now read this part. First, outside of state leaders and a few economists and policy analysts, advocates of the view that true federalism means giving greater fiscal space to states and trusting them in settling their own priorities have been few and far between. So, it means a sync in relation among the states and the center. So only then, if there is a sync, if the relation is synchronized, only then there will be cooperation. दोनों साथ में काम करेंगे, right? In sync with each other. That is why D should have been the answer. All right? And you people have guessed it right. Next one. What does the writer mean by one size fits all schemes? A. Niti Aayog will make schemes that would be equally beneficial for all. B. Previously the schemes were more transparent and object oriented. D. Planning Commission were making schemes without considering the crucial scenario in the states. And D says Planning Commission was making more precise schemes so as to address the actual needs of the states. One size fits all. Krishna has keyed in A. Khushbu says A. Dev says D. All right. Okay, let's look at the question. One size fits all. Consider this part. With larger transfers coming as untied funds, states also have greater responsibility in discharging their duties. It is likely that they will now have to take greater responsibility in areas that have been hitherto covered by the center, especially those falling on the state list. States will also have to do this in ways that are more consistent with their priorities and not according to one size fit all schemes. Not according to one size fits all schemes. By the same token, with a lower share in the divisible pool, the center's fiscal space will shrink, requiring, so you can overlook this. This word is important, and not according to one size fits all scheme. So earlier, what was happening when there was Planning Commission and not Niti Aayog? Planning Commission were making schemes without considering the crucial scenario in the states. Now I hope you've understood why C should be the option. If you go by this line, that is why C should be the option. It says not according to one size fits all scheme. This is definitely a futile scheme. And the author does not believe in one size fits all scheme at all. So C should have been the answer choice. Khushbu, Karthik, Ninad, Krishna, Dev, you people, have you understood why C should be the option? Well, Karthik has answered C. About the others, this should have been the answer. Alright? Okay. So that is why each and every line becomes important. जब तक तुम एक एक लाइन को, एक एक वर्ड को ध्यान से नहीं पढ़ोगे, and that comes with practice. Right? And that comes with practice. You have to practice such questions. You have faced much difficult passages in CAT. This was definitely annoyingly long, but then, you just have to work on the facts and figures. That's all. Okay. Next one. Why the government did a 10% increase in devolution? To transfer the funds in the hands of state, shed of the extra responsibility to take away, shed means to take away, the extra responsibility of the state-sponsored schemes, to make state more self-dependent, or D, to increase the extent of authority on states. What do you think should be the answer? So we are talking about a 10% increase in devolution. To transfer the funds in the hands of state, shed of the extra responsibility of the state-sponsored schemes, to make state more self-dependent, or D, to increase the extent of authority on states. Okay, 10% increase to the state. Let us look at the answer option. A, B, C, D. The answer is C, to make state more self-dependent. Why? Look here, 10% rise from 32% to 42%. Remember the data? What does this change imply? For starters, with larger transfers coming as united funds, states also have greater responsibility in discharging their duties. It is likely that they will now have to take greater responsibility in areas that have been hitherto covered by the state. That makes the state more self-dependent and not center-dependent. So C should have been the answer. That was the right choice. So this was quite an easy one. Yes? Next challenge. What is the drastic change of the policy in Niti Aayog from that was in Planning Commission? So तुमको ये change निकालने की जरूरत पड़ेगी जब Planning Commission था और अब जब नीति आयोग है. So what is the change? A says now states will have equal equation with the center. B says states will have more financial freedom. C says center has given the responsibility to states to draft every scheme. D says both A and B. Be very careful with your choices. All right. Krishna has answered. She says it has to be D. All right, Krishna. Thank you. What is the drastic change of the policy in Niti Aayog from that was in Planning Commission? The answer option, okay. The Dave vlogs, D, Krishna, D, alright. What about the others? Please hurry up and answer the question. Please key in your answers. Okay. Both A and B. Look at this part and then we'll go to this part. Alright. In replacing the Planning Commission by Niti Aayog, the Prime Minister sought to change that equation and forge an equal relationship between the two sides. This is what it says. Greater fiscal freedom combined with greater legislative freedom in areas covered by the concurrent list of the Constitution means that states will need to play a more active role in designing their own program and policies. So, A, definitely equal equation, and B will have more freedom. C talks about draft every scheme. This is outside the scope of the passage. The center has not given the state this responsibility of drafting every scheme. So this every word has a problem over here. So C cannot be the option. It has to be A and B. So D should have been the option. All right? Okay. Figure out the meaning of entrenched. What is entrenched? Now comes vocabulary. A, disorganize. B, unsettle. C, establish. D, weaken. Entrenched. How has the word been used? If you go back to the passage once, very quickly you will find out. Here is the word, entrenched. Nevertheless, this system has remained entrenched in one form or another. Let's go back to the question now. Entrenched. Entrenched means confirmed, all right? Something which is confirmed or established. Established, confirmed or established. So, what is the answer option? The answer option for 11 is C. It cannot be disorganized. It cannot be unsettled. It cannot be weakened. It has to be C, established. C is the right option. Unsettled would be wrong, right? I think one of you marked unsettled. Okay, if you have, please. Entrenched means to be confirmed, to aver something, to prove something, establish something. That is why C should have been the answer. All right? Okay. Next question. Helm. Right? There is an idiom also. We say at the helm of things. What is helm? Let us go back to the passage and see how this word has been used in the passage. This part. Moreover, they have recognized the opportunity offered by a Prime Minister at the helm. Prime Minister at the helm. Alright. So, Prime Minister at the helm. What is the answer? Khushbu says C. B. Alright. Okay. Helm is actually, it's a wheel. It's a wheel. And what does this wheel do? It controls the direction of the ship. One who has control. One who has control. or rule or authority. Now can you guess the answer? Right? It's reign. The rule. Alright? It cannot be bottom, it cannot be last, it cannot be large. So the answer is A, reign. Krishna, Khushbu, yes, it is reign, absolutely right. Yeah, one who controls the organization, yes. The word comes from the helm of a ship. One who steers the ship and gives it direction. Alright? Okay. Next one, hitherto. A is last, B is until now, C is since, and D is as far as. Okay, let's look at the usage. It is likely that they will now have a greater responsibility in areas that have been hitherto covered by the center. That have been hitherto covered by the center. An adverb. Hitherto is an adverb. Last, until now, since, as far as. What do you think should be the answer? Ninad has marked A, Dev says A, Khushbu says B. Alright. See dear, hitherto actually means until now. Until now it was looked after by the central government, but now the power has been given to the state government to steer the ship. That is why you must choose B. This is your answer. Alright, B is the right answer. Devolution. Next question, devolution. A, dispersal of power, control of power, bound by power, or easing of power. Devolution. How has the word been used? Let us go back to the passage once. Here it lies. A gigantic jump in devolution. Okay. Transfer of power happening from 32% to 42%, 10% power given to the state. So, rings a bell? Dispersal of power, control of power, bound by power, easing of power. Devolution means, in very simple terms, we say transfer. Okay. Krishna and Dev, is your answer? Have you keyed in the option for this question, devolution? Okay. It's transfer or decentralization. Alright. So that takes you to A, dispersal of power. Alright. It is not control, it is not bound, it is not easing of power. Alright. So dispersal of power. See, 32% to 42%. Right. The power being given to the state. So this is dispersal, decentralization. That is devolution. Alright. Hence A should have been the right answer choice. Alright. So one thing is very important. Read the questions very carefully and try to scrutinize these words very properly. Look at the application, the way the words have been used in the passage. जब तक हमें application समझ में नहीं आएगा, we may be at sea in terms of finding out the right answer option. Okay. I'm telling you that the passages are going to be easy, right? They're not going to be tough. The questions are also going to be a bit tricky, yes. MAHCET after all, उतना easy आपको करके नहीं देंगे, but you should be able to find your way through. Alright? So on that note, we come to the end of yet another session. Right? Please join our Telegram group today if you are already there. So I think you're enjoying the group. a couple of announcements. BYJU'S program is going on, right? Being mentored by our top faculty, Srinivas sir and Gautam sir. Please join the program and enroll yourself. Call on the given numbers and write into us. We will be more than happy to hear from you. Batch 5 has been rolled out for CAT 22. If you haven't enrolled and if you're thinking of writing CAT 22, please enroll yourself today. Call on the given numbers and find out everything that you want to. You are being mentored by some of the best in the industry. You can see them, right? And please like, comment and share and subscribe to BYJU'S Exam Prep and download the app. All right, follow us on Insta, on YouTube, on Facebook. And yes, tomorrow again I'm going live, right, with you, and we will be discussing a few critical reasoning questions. So follow me tomorrow at 9 o'clock. All right. So with that being said, this is Pradeep sir signing off today. Wish you all the very best and see you in the next class. Have a great day ahead. Bye-bye all of you.